All right. Okay. Another rambunctious episode of Phil and Chase Watch Everything.
Everything.
First episode of November. Last episode of October.
Yes it is.
Technically. We've got some wrapping up to do. With the spooky season, it's behind us now.
It is. Thank God.
I do get to that point. I feel like every October, it's always so fun. And honestly, it's like the same thing like when I was talking to Shep. And Shep's been super stoked for Christmas. But he's like, you got to remember, homie, I've been in Halloween since like July. And I feel like that's how it is every year because we go so hard in October for things. Like we're usually making things beforehand we've been building the set for months. I feel like after we filmed, I was like, all right, we're done. We're done with October. And then it just kept going. And
that is true. I guess like in my defense, it's like my first true October diving into the horror film, so there's still so much I didn't get to touch, but
you're in the best spot right now.
Yeah,
because I'm at like the total opposite end of the spectrum where I've watched so many horror movies that I really have to want to find like new good stuff.
Oh yeah, anything I watch is like new to me.
Oh
like,
yeah, you're right at the.
I watched. I think I watched maybe 4 to 5 movies all of October that I've already seen.
Yeah.
And then about 40 movies that like were just all new to me. So
I don't have my notebook with me, but as you know, I keep my movie log. And I was going through, this is just a random fact, but I did notice, you know how I like my statistics.
You do love statistics.
I did notice that a weird statistic that has nothing to do with October, but every year since I started keeping track in 2020, on December 30th, I always watch 2 movies. That's never been a plan. That's never something like, it's December 30th. I need to watch movies.
Do it.
I just do it. And I noticed it every single year. I'm like, how about that? Because I was looking to see what movies I began and ended each year with. But these are conversations for another time. But this year, I think in October, last year was my highest October. I watched like 44 movies, I think. I think this year I capped out at like 37. And only 3 of those weren't like horror movies, I guess.
I guess like for me, I think I average close to like 12 to 15 movies every week. So I got close to like 60 movies minimum.
Oh, for sure.
Of every.
You went in this October.
I
for
did.
Sure. You had work to do, and you said, "Let's get to it."
I said, if I'm going to do it right, goddammit. Like
you made this podcast your job, for sure. Yeah, so in a sense, it is. Phil's just watching everything Chase has already watched.
Pretty much.
Yeah, but end of October. It's nice to kind of have some of that behind us now.
It is.
Only to turn around and do it all again here soon. But
yeah, but that's a different animal altogether.
I started my week since the last time we did the show. The very first thing I watched after that was Trap again for some reason.
Oh yeah, we talked about.
Yeah, because Belle hadn't seen it and she wanted to watch it. So I was gonna say, okay, well I this is how I felt about it. And so I just kept all my thoughts to myself. I was like, I want her to watch this and I want to see it like through her eyes because she doesn't watch a lot of movies in general, let alone horror movies. So there's always that sense to like Belle will watch things and get far more enjoyment out of it just because she's not accustomed to the cliches yet. She's not worn down
it's new
by
to
it.
her.
But she also, I think, kind of felt that it overstayed its welcome after a bit. And it didn't get any better the second time around. There were things I will say that like I do feel like we were overlooked. Yeah.
You made the comment about the pretzel in the cup, about like the OCD and stuff like that. So I mean, I'm sure there was a slight character developments, but
there were such little things, and upon a rewatch, I can't say it made the movie any better. If anything, I'm doubling down on the fact that like I'm not one to cry nepotism. You know, if you've got the power to get your kid a job, basically, then hey, more power to you. But this movie felt like it. Like it definitely feels like he just made it.
Was because like it was funny because even like when we did the first initial like run through of the movie, I didn't even realize that was his daughter. Like that was the Lady Raven or whatever. And until you said something about like, oh, that's his daughter, I was like, okay, well now this movie makes a lot more sense to me purely based on like a clout situation versus trying to make a decent film. Yeah.
Which, you know, like I said, whatever. If that's what this is.
More power to you.
Hey, I mean, it's funny. If it's just a vanity project for his daughter, then it's a great movie, if that's the case.
You know, I mean, he produced some great movies this year. And
that was the other detail I noticed was the billboard for The Watchers that his other daughter directed earlier this year. I was like, interesting.
His daughter directed that?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yeah.
And you still haven't watched it?
Nope, haven't watched that one yet.
That is one that I will say I didn't have too much complaints about it, like watching it, but
thinking back on it,
not even that. It's just there's really just like one aspect that I just felt like didn't make sense to me. But if you haven't watched it, I don't want to.
I feel you. I'll probably watch that one here soon before the end of the year.
I'm going to watch Caddo Lake too. I will recommend Caddo Lake. Caddo Lake was actually
I keep hearing that. Caddo
Lake was dope.
But yeah, you got me infected with the fever. And
it just kept going. Like
it did just keep going.
I thought it was going to be like a week-long thing. And
I did too.
It turned into like a whole month of
I thought you were just like, oh yeah, these werewolf movies. I'm like, yeah, werewolf movies. We love some werewolf movies. And then all of a sudden, this just became the season of the wolf.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Which I've decided will be the title of this episode because that's what ended up happening.
At this point in time, like that, like just at like right now.
No, I decided this prior to this moment, but I should have just said yes. Yeah.
Right. Yep. No, that's okay. We'll cut it.
What? Yeah. But yeah, I leaned into it. It's funny because I did see a thing not too long ago. I don't remember if it was like an article or a video I watched, but they were talking about like monster movies and stuff.
Right.
But they were talking about werewolf movies in particular. And they were like, you know, vampire movies, you throw a rock, you'll hit a great vampire movie. Or like, and you can say that for a lot of movie monsters, but they were just talking about how werewolves are very slept on. And they were like, genuinely, if you had to sit down and make a list of like the best werewolf movies ever, you might be lucky to get like a dozen.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's pretty fair.
You know, it's funny because I was even thinking about this, like, I think last week, and I almost wish I would have texted you about it. But there's three plots to a werewolf movies. There's one where it's the slow burn turn, like Werewolf in London, where the whole movie is essentially him turning and then turns at the end.
Yeah.
You have the Wolfpack movie where it's a bunch of werewolves together doing stuff. And then I feel like the third one would just be like,
I feel like maybe other people versus the werewolf sort of thing.
Yeah, like a werewolf hunter, like more action packed. Like they are hunting the werewolf versus the movie being about the werewolf itself.
I feel you. I'd agree with that. So a lot of werewolf movies this week for sure for me. Just monsters in general just kind of became the theme this month, which I wasn't mad about. In fact, the werewolves took over so much that I just decided I didn't watch a lot of my usual suspects this year, which is fine because I feel like they're movies I literally watch every single year. So it's like sometimes I don't mind skipping a year because I see these movies so I'm probably gonna watch them next year. You know,
it's gonna come around.
Yeah, I'm gonna watch these movies again. So I was okay skipping out on I didn't watch any of the Halloween movies this year. I didn't watch Trick or Treat. But you did.
I did watch Trick or Treat because you said that you usually watch it on Halloween. So I was like, I had to. It was Trick or Treat was ginger to a sushi roll. You know what I'm saying? Like because I watched all the Friday the 13th, and I needed something to
to cleanse the palate.
To cleanse the palate. And I was like, okay, I need something other than Jason Voorhees during his thing.
I was going to say, let's close out with the Friday the 13th today, because I feel like you got some shit bubbling up inside of you for it.
Always do.
So, but we'll stick with Trick or Treat for now. If I'm not mistaken, that movie did not get a theatrical release originally. It was one of those movies that when I first saw the preview for it, it was like years before it came out. Like they dropped a trailer, and then years later, the movie finally got to come out. And
it came out like what, 2012, 2007. Oh, even earlier than I anticipated.
And even then, I don't remember if it was 2007. No, yeah, it was out by 2007. But Shep and I got the chance to see it in theaters last year.
Nice,
because they had like a little screening. I don't know if it was an anniversary or something. Who gives a shit? But we saw it in theaters.
I don't know what anniversary that would be.
I don't know, but it was fun. I was glad we finally got to see it in theaters. Nice little crowd. I've always enjoyed it because it's also the same director that did Krampus.
And we did watch Krampus. It took me a long time.
Yeah,
you watched it originally. And you
as a big
for years, and then eventually you
as a big Trick or Treat fan,
and then maybe watch it.
And Krampus, I feel like is great. He's got 2 fantastic holiday movies under his belt, and one of my least favorite Godzilla movies ever.
Which would
King of the Monsters, the second of like the newer wave of the American ones.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know. I'm not even gonna get.
We're not gonna get.
I'm not even gonna get into Godzilla.
We would need a whole episode just to do our Godzilla stuff.
2 episodes.
Shit.
38 movies.
Where's the season of the lizard? It's coming. But anyways, I digress. But yeah, there's a little werewolf action in Trick or Treat.
There was. I guess like since you said you already watched it, so like when I went and watched it, I was a little burnt out. Like about probably like the first. Well, it was only like an hour and 10 minutes. I think it was 82 minutes. I think. It was,
all in all.
Yeah, like it was a very short movie, so I ended quicker than I anticipated. Like, so I mean, probably about the first like 20 minutes, like I was watching it, but like I just didn't care at that point. I was like, I'll put it on. Like it's Halloween. Like I need something to watch or whatever. And, so it's like, cause like it opens up with the couple. Mm-hmm. And they're talking about being lit or whatever. And so she's like, go inside, turn on the film or whatever. And he's like, are you sure? And she makes like some reference to, he says like it's tradition to not blow out the candles or whatever. And she's like, it's not Hanukkah. And then she's like, go turn on the naughty film. And then, he fucks off and then she dies. Yeah. And so, I thought it was interesting because it was like a comic book in the sense where it's like earlier, later. And so like, it was like jumping like, from point to point. So I thought it was really interesting in that aspect. I had the thought where it's like more, I guess more of like a morbid thought where it's like, I would love to show like a kid this movie. You know what I'm saying? Where it's like not young enough to like completely scar them, but young enough to where it's like, fuck. You know what I'm saying? Because like it wasn't
follow the rules, but
it wasn't like overbearing in like certain aspects, but it was still creepy. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So it's like I enjoyed that.
Sam, the little kid with the sack on his head and stuff, has become, after many years, has finally become this like icon in and of himself for Halloween, which is crazy because that movie's been out for so long and it took at least over 10 years for Sam to start becoming like an icon of horror. Right. Whereas Art the Clown is out here.
I was literally thinking the same thing. It's like he took fucking what?
A few years?
17 years. I mean, 17 years since it released. So you knock off 4 years. So what, 13, over a decade.
Yeah. It took him a minute.
To play nice. But
I will say, I don't know. I think the werewolf story might be my favorite. I feel like it was the first time I saw it. I feel like the first time I saw it, the werewolf one was my favorite because I like Anna Paquin. And she was great in it. I liked the twist. Like you said,
was that the virgin sister?
Yeah.
The one that it was her first time, and because the way they set it up was like they made it seem like she was just like a virgin, she's 22 and she's never had sex before, like she doesn't know how to like pick up guys or whatever, and so they're like, because they were putting on their outfits in like the dressing room, and like like the little kid like poking through the trying to peep through the fucking cracks of the dressing room, and then the mom got mad like, those kids, because like they were talking about being a little vulgar so I thought it was interesting. I think overall it was even like when I first watched it was probably one of my favorite stories.
I think the one that's always been a favorite of mine, though, is the one about the school bus and the kids.
See, that's my second favorite.
Honestly, that
one,
I feel like over time, like after rewatches, like I feel like that one has kind of stood the test of time. Like that one's consistently been my favorite because like the werewolf one, it's like once you know what's going to happen and then you're watching it again, like it's still good, but you know where it's all going. You know all the twists and turns.
I mean, can't you say that about the
kids thing? Yeah, but like I don't know. I feel like the kids thing, it's not so much about the twist as it is just like what they're doing to this little girl in the first place. Like, bunch of bullies.
Well, I don't know. See, like even in that aspect, there is really only one true bully. Like
that's fair. Yeah,
I mean, that's fair. She was the ringleader, and the other ones like kind of followed suit. But even like the dude, I can't remember his name now, but like
he was trying to be kind of.
But he was nice to her, like when they like the initial story started, because he's like, "Oh, did you carve all these pumpkins yourself?" Yeah. And she's like, "Yeah." He's like, "I made this costume myself too." He's like, "Oh, that's really awesome." And so like he was like very genuine about like his appreciation towards her and like the season, like, and so. I guess for anyone who hasn't watched it, spoilers or whatever. So apparently, the school bus, like the bus driver is like chaining them all down, and there's like a kid who like spazzed out, for lack of better terms, and he like drove because they're at a rock.
The parents paid the bus driver to kill the kids, basically.
Is that what that was?
Yeah, because basically they all.
I just thought the kids just agreed to it. I thought that was the consensus.
No, they were. None of the kids knew. The parents paid the bus driver to do it.
This isn't right. And he fucking
what does he say? He's like wrong turn, or something like that. Yeah. Wrong way.
Yeah, wrong way. I think that's what it was.
Honestly, thinking on it, that was like one of the first like anthology movies I ever watched.
And kudos to whoever tripped the fucking bus driver. By the way.
Oh, for sure.
Fuck him.
Yeah. Even though he did survive. Because he was the old guy in the last short.
Was that him?
Yeah. You didn't catch that?
No, I did not.
Yeah. He was the bus driver.
Okay. So.
Because at the end, all the spooky kids show up.
Because I thought. So that makes more sense then.
There are little
clues I thought that was kind of just cheesy.
Oh, when the kids
I thought it was just like a way to throw them back in there, but with him being the bus driver, and then obviously, so I guess to backtrack, so they drive the kid drives the bus off the quarry, and they all die, and so later, they were talking about the legend or myth or whatever of the bus and wherever, and so what the rule was, like you can't like. They went down there, and every pumpkin lit was to be for like a human soul or whatever, So they go down there, and then you have this innocent kid who doesn't really know what's going on. She just had pumpkins, and they needed an extra one. So like, oh, you can come along. And so when they went like they did like 2 separate trips.
Yeah.
down. Like they did like 3 down the first time because weight limitations or whatever the fuck their excuse was.
Right.
To set up later when it's like, so they finally get down there. And so you think that like something happens.
Yeah.
And like a kid gets attacked. He has like the fake guns out.
Yeah.
All that shit. And so chick is just wigged out.
Oh,
She's like hyperventilating, but the nice dude was like, "Hey, fuck off!" Like,
whoa,
she's
sorry,
like,
it's just a joke.
What more? Like, don't push it. Like, she's genuinely scared or whatever. And so then like, blah 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 blah, and then it's like something happens like where like the actual souls or whatever.
They actually
do like the myth is essentially real.
Yeah.
And like what's so fucked up is, and I just like I don't know, like it's, and sometimes like I just like I don't know, like if I was in that situation, because it was like I don't know, what would you call it? It wasn't like an elevator essentially, but it was like but it was a lift. Yeah. So like it was locked from the inside, and so she's the only one in there, and so shit's starting to really get spooky or whatever. And so like they're all like let us in, like because they're hearing like the whispers of like the kids and stuff like that. They're like, oh shit, this isn't funny anymore. like shit just got fucking real. And
this ain't me, dog.
And so and it's just like it's so weird to me because it's like I can understand like being hesitant and like apprehensive, like you just got fucked with. So like, why wouldn't you think this is just another fuckery at that point? But like, at least let dude in. Like dude was like just genuinely sweet to her. Like never had any like male in like or
malintent. Like,
yes, I just didn't like that word. Right, but it wasn't being malicious about it, or in a sense. And so, like, they're like, open the door. And she just said, and then just, like, goes up. And then, obviously, the other souls, like, take over the bodies or whatever. And it's just like, I just don't know if I could do that, man. Like to...
I feel like that does happen, though, in movies. You always get that, like, one character, like... look at Carrie. Have you ever seen Carrie?
I saw the remake with Chloe Grace Moretz, but never actually watched the original.
Well, regardless, it's all the same shit. Because you get the one guy who like asks her to prom, so like he's in on it all, but also he's like half trying to be nice to her. Right? And it's just like
she's not a horrible person,
right? And I feel like you get that in horror movies, where it's like you do get that person who's like rides that line of like. Yeah, I like to fuck around and have a good time, but also like, hey, let's not be so cruel to this person.
Yeah,
sometimes this is too late.
He's not a bad person. He is just put in a bad situation. I don't think.
I mean, one could debatably say. I mean, he still went with the plan. He's still.
But one can argue that he didn't realize but yes and no. Like, I think he agreed to it. I think
as a
more so in like the fact that he didn't think they would actually go through with it, but then once it actually happened, I mean, I only watched it once, so
I feel it.
But you know what I'm saying? But it's like it's just like one of those things where it's like,
could you do it?
A good guy in a bad situation. I mean,
all right. We just spent way too much time on Trick or Treat.
Not even. It's a 2-hour episode.
Oh, that's right.
Last of
that's
Halloween.
Right. I meant to put a disclaimer earlier, but then we start talking too much about Trick or Treat. I was like, this is going to be the longest episode.
I believe so, and I think it's
it's shaping up to be that way.
I love it.
I feel you about being burnt out by the end of the month, though, because I was feeling that way on the last few days of October, getting in my last few movies. I felt myself checking out. One of them I watched that I don't even feel like I can really say too much on, because like I legitimately I
didn't watch.
I think I just kind of zoned out there at the end. I think Shep showed up when I was finishing it, but it's Frankenstein meets the Wolfman to follow up our Wolfman adventure.
Yeah.
And It was decent from what I watched. I mean, because I was curious. I was like, didn't they kill the Wolfman at the end of the Wolfman? But yeah, it's horror movies, you know.
Well, I mean,
they can always bring motherfuckers back.
We might as well also get into Monster Squad.
I will.
We're talking about Wolfman because that should be like the end of Wolfman. I feel like since I didn't watch
Frankenstein.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, I mean, it was one of those things that by the end of again, short movie, but like near the end of it, I started kind of zoning out a little bit. I was just kind of checked out a bit of that movie. It was all right from what I saw of it. I think Frankenstein and the Wolfman fight at the end. I don't know. That's where I don't know. I was out of it.
I have my own opinions about Frankenstein, but we can I'd rather get into that when we talk about Monster Squad.
And then I snuck in just as something simple to watch at the end of the month was Werewolf by Night in color. I'd never seen it in color, but I did watch the black and white version, the Marvel one.
Yeah. With what the fuck was her name? The chick.
Elsa Bloodstone.
Yep. Yeah. I knew it was Blood something. I just can't remember.
Still good. I actually think I did prefer it in black and white.
I would too. I watched it with my dad actually.
Yeah.
We watched it together because it was an hour and
it's still a good one. I was really I wanted a little bit of Marvel and the werewolf thing was still going, so I'm like perfect. Werewolf by Night. Still a good one. I wish Marvel would do more holiday specials.
So I feel like we need to backtrack a little bit because we did watch more Werewolves.
Oh, I was going to jump back. Yeah, I was just getting those out of the way real quick because I didn't have much to say.
I guess I'll do a quick breakdown of Cursed.
Cursed. Yes.
I don't think you should watch it.
You don't think I should watch it?
No,
okay.
I really don't think it's worth that. It was interesting. It was Wes Craven. So I watched all like the Scream movies or whatever. Yeah. And so I was like, so then when I was on, I think Pluto TV, it was talking about how he made a werewolf movie and had who was Christina Ricci and Jesse Eisenberg and
Joshua Jackson. John Jacob Jingleheimer.
As the JJ Abrams fucking, but it was just I didn't like
somebody at home's like J.J. Abrams had nothing to do with it. Same with John Jingleheimer Schmidt.
Or I was gonna go for J. Jonah Jameson is what I meant, but J.J. Abrams works too. But I felt like it was like it was just weird. So like when it first started or whatever, I thought Christina Ricci was supposed to be Jesse Eisenhower.
Sorry.
It was supposed to be. I thought like they were trying to tell me that was his mom and not sister. So I was like, what in fucking world are they like? When is she ever gonna be his mom? She had him like 11. Right. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was like, I don't really understand how like. Because I think it was like the older sister, like having like that, protective, motherly role to her and stuff like that. I was like, I don't know. But then, eventually it gets brought up that their parents died and they are brother and sister. I was like, woo, wipe the sweat off my brow. I'm like, okay, well, that makes a lot more fucking sense. But it was like, it was okay, but it was just too much. They did a lot too much. I don't know. It was like ultra fucking. I'm trying to think of like the best word, but they like over dramatic essentially. It was just like the whole aspect because like they get bit and then or scratched whatever they are turning to werewolves and they did like the classic like Spider-Man where Jesse Eisenberg is like this dweeb, essentially, for lack of better words, and then all of a sudden he's like beating up the fucking the wrestling captain who keeps bullying him, and that was weird too because it was like the captain kept on saying that Jesse Eisenberg was gay or whatever, you know what I'm saying? So like he was like, blah 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 blah, whatever, like derogatory terms, and then and so he's like, nah, that ain't me, fam. and so like he ends up like beating him up, and then like dude comes back later to his house. And it's like, well, and so the backtrack. So like when Jesse Eisenberg is beating him up, he has him like in the air. Mind you, like Jesse Eisenberg looks like he weighs like 120 pounds.
Looks like Jesse Eisenberg.
He looks like Jesse Eisenberg. He's not gonna pick me up over his head. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so he made the comment, you know, the good thing about being a fairy is you can fly, and then like, you know, you know, and so then like there's that, like that was like the end of like the school scene or whatever, getting the one on the bully.
Yeah.
And so then like later he's coming back. It was weird because it was like dude was like, he came out as gay, like the captain of like the wrestling team was like, he was gay. And so like Jesse Eisenberg called him out. He's like, how'd you know? Or whatever. But then like what was like the weirdest part about that was like he was still like persistent that like Jesse Eisenberg's character was gay. Like Jesse Eisenberg the whole time is like, no, dude, like I'm not gay. Like
You are.
He's like, yeah, pretty much though. He was like, you do you, bro. Like, ain't nothing wrong with being gay. He's like, I'm not. He's like, I'm a werewolf, so I'm giving off sexual pheromones, which they talked about. So like, it did play into it.
Jesse Eisenberg was the werewolf?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
So him and his sister Christina Ricci both get bit /
Gotcha. I didn't know.
Cut.
I didn't know if the cursed person in the title was actually just this wrestling.
Oh no! It cursed with an identity crisis.
Yeah.
But no. So it's Jesse Eisenberg and Christina Ricci are werewolves or whatever.
Yeah.
It was weird because they got into like a car accident. And like a car veers off the road or whatever, and so then they like get out of the car and like go check it out or whatever. And so it's like a girl flipped over and like she's like upside down, whatever. So Jesse Eisenberg is trying to get a hold of the police, but they're up in the mountains, so there's not a great signal. So he finally gets a hold of someone, yada yada yada. He comes down, helps get the girl out of the car. Bah, werewolf. And so like she yanks 3 of these motherfuckers. So it's the chick, Jesse Eisenberg, and Christina Ricci all fucking like holding on to each other, and it's like it was like pulling weeds, bro. Like it just like so you know, they get ripped off or whatever, and so then Jesse Eisenberg's sister get away, and so they're like back over, and so it's like, oh, what the fuck was like, what's going on? And then out of the fucking sky, you see a fucking half of a body, and it's obviously the chick that was in the other car accident. And so then the personal pet peeve of mine is like the unrealisticness of it. So it's like chick's on her back, like turns over onto her stomach and is like crawling and then starts screaming. I'm like, there ain't no way in hell. Like, you know, it's like I get it. Like, can someone live after being cut in half? Sure. Is that scenario happening? No. Like that, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's just not. And so I don't know. It was just like over the top. I think it was the word I was trying to look for earlier, where it's like even like, you know, towards the end where another thing, Philly thinks it's silly. So the dog bites Jesse Eisenberg after he's been scratched, or whatever. And so, like, I've never seen it. Kudos to them because I've never seen it in a werewolf movie, but on personal preference, I didn't like it. So, like, the dog bites Jesse Eisenberg after he gets scratched, whatever. Yada yada yada. Full moon, and so then the dog also like turns into like a werewolf.
Interesting.
And it's just like a part of me just like. I just thought it's not right, bro. Like I get it, like because there's that lore where it's like werewolf's blood is like infected blood, and so if you get the blood in you, then you're also infected. So why would it not be the same thing for a dog? I get where they're.
I mean, low key, I know like you told me not to, but now I kind of want to watch it just because of that.
It's not. I mean, it's literally just like one scene. So if you're gonna watch it just for that, you can.
You can't stop me.
You can also just look up a clip real quick. It'd be the same effect.
No, I love to commit. You know what I mean?
But yeah. So I mean, overall, it was not my favorite werewolf movie to end on.
You said you're kind of bummed to end your werewolf journey.
I did. On that note, I think I could have done something a little better.
Well, on a similar note, I also ended my month as a whole. I ended on this movie, Halloween night, but also my werewolf journey with it. The werewolf, I will say this, the werewolf portion of this movie was not terrible.
Right.
I didn't mind that. But it was a movie called The Monster Project. I think it came out in 2017, I believe was the release date. And it's like this guy who it's all found footage. It's found footage.
Right.
Movie. And it's this guy who makes YouTube videos with his buddy. And they're like, oh, this creature was caught on camera sort of thing. But it's like they're faking it, obviously.
Right.
You know. And then he gets this bright idea. He's like, hey, what if we did like a show, like a TV show like this, where like we find real monsters. Like we go find real monsters and try to interview them or whatever. So he puts out like this thing online on like Craigslist or some shit, like looking for real monsters. Like, no, like, please don't contact us if you're just crazy. Basically, is
trying to weed them out.
Yeah, and it's like if you know, we're looking for like genuine like people who like are monsters or whatever for this film. We want to interview you. And then he also rents out this like creepy location to interview them in, which like, I don't know if I missed if there was a reason for that other than maybe like the production value of his thing. Like, I don't know. It did seem like one of those things that's like, why? Did y'all just need to be trapped in a place for this movie? Now, here's the thing. Here's the thing. I feel like sometimes when I watch a movie, you know, my meter starts of like my stars, you know, my 5-star meter, and it'll fill up, but sometimes it'll deplete, you know, depending on how the movie's going. You know?
Do you go by a 4-star? Or do you
I've succumbed to the 5-star because there's a reason we do 5 stars, because it's more convenient than a 4-star system. It's just flawed. That was on me. I was trying to change the system, and I shouldn't. You know,
I always accepted that for who you were. I was like,
but you know, low key, I still keep a 4-star system in my phone, whereas on Letterboxd it's all 5 stars. But regardless, I give or take the star. I find that extra star does help with the ratings, because at that point you're doing like 0.75s, and it's like you might as well just do the 5 stars at that point.
You're 1/16th of a bad movie.
Yeah. So, anyways, so yeah, this was one of those where like, you know, the movie starts and like it kind of like went up a little, but then as the movie kept going, it just like kept, all right, deduct half a star, and it just kind of kept going. First and foremost, like I like, let me be clear, I like a good found footage movie. I am a found footage fan, but I am not like some of these other found footage people who will watch fucking anything found footage, which, you know, we know some folks that do the found footage thing, and they're great at it. They found their little niche there, and I love that for them. They make some fun stuff, but like, I don't know. I guess I'm very particular about that specific subgenre, and something that I feel like, I'm not saying it can't be done, but what should be a rule of thumb for a found footage movie is that it should not fucking be an hour and 40 minutes long or longer. Like, it should not. It should not be almost 2 hours long. It should be an hour and a half or less. Like, it should be a tight.
How long was Cloverfield?
Pretty short. I mean, I don't know accurately off the top of my head. You know,
I was just curious because I didn't know that was also a found footage movie.
Yeah,
it was actually.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, if you've got a story to justify and fill that time, by all means. But a lot of found footage doesn't, because I feel like the number one thing that people do wrong with found footage is they get hung up on the found footage part of it, where they're like, oh, well, we just will never cut away. And that's all your runtime is just these scenes where you're just never cutting away. You know how much time is spent by people watching people just walking through the woods on a shaky video camera Not for story, not for anything other than to fill the runtime of your fucking found footage movie. Now, listen, Shep and I, we did our found footage thing with the Thanksgiving project.
Or something. I may at least try to fill up the air with something other than just
exactly.
I haven't seen it, so I don't know. But I'm assuming that's
with the Monster Project.
Yeah.
This is at this point it has nothing to do with the Monster Project. This is just bitching about the subgenre as a whole.
Gotcha.
But you know, I feel very particular about found footage. You know, I feel like a lot of other subgenres have a lot of flexibility. You can do a lot of things with them and still get away with it. Even at their worst, they're still a lot of fun. Found footage is like watching fucking paint dry when it's done wrong, and it's just like nobody wants that. And like, I feel like that's the one thing I do pride myself on with the Thanksgiving project is that like we kept shit moving. Like we kept shit moving. Like, you know, yes, we walked through the woods, but like you said, we either had banter going or we just like, we cut when it was time to cut. Like we didn't need to see how we got from point A to point B.
Yeah, I conserve camera time.
But I fucking digress on that.
I just a quick note. I thought Unfriended was really good.
Yeah.
With the way that they utilize like the
found footage.
It's not even found footage, but just like the camera.
The way they did it.
The camera computers. Whatever. And they just did it to where it's like you're just looking at someone through like as if you're on a Zoom call.
Right.
Or something like that. And there's not, I think that was like one of the first of its times. And I thought they did a really good job with it. And that's.
They did.
That's a
whole other
that's
thing.
Like a subgenre of found footage.
Yeah. I feel that.
In a sense.
Yeah, because that did become a little popular. But that's a whole other thing.
Yeah, because you get into searching and all that shit.
Yeah. That's exactly what I was thinking. Anyways, so the Monster Project, that was one of its biggest downfalls. It's like an hour and 40 some minutes. And like the movie I signed up for was these people going and interviewing like these monsters. And that's all that this movie should have been. It should have been, hey, we start the movie. This is what we're going to do. The Monster Project. The next thing that should have happened is them meeting these monsters and then things starting to go wrong. And then the rest of the movie happens. But no, there's like at least a half hour at the beginning of this movie where I'm like, I feel like the point was to get to know the characters better. I didn't give a fuck about any of these characters. Like the pacing of this movie was terrible because by the time anything happens in this movie, you're at least like 40 minutes in already. You got an hour left of this movie and I don't care anymore. Not a single monster has shown up yet and I don't give a fuck about this movie anymore. And it's just like, it's not even like, I don't even know how to explain it because it's like, it's not even necessarily that the characters are unlikable. It's just like they don't give you enough to latch on. It all just feels so like surface level.
Right.
And it's like there's a lot of time spent on nothing is what it feels like. Like nothing happens in this time. Like I felt no growth. Like I didn't feel like I connected with anybody or anything. So then the monster stuff happens. And like, again, credit where credit's due. Like for a low budget found footage movie, I thought the effects were great. Some of the monster moments were like genuinely like a little chilling. Right. I feel like once they actually got going. But one of them was this Asian woman who had a demon inside of her. One was a Native American police officer who was a skinwalker.
For minorities.
And then the other one was a white woman who was a vampire. Yeah. So you had to have the one.
She was a minority.
I suppose. And there was like a weird love triangle thing going on. There was like a thing about addiction as well. Like the main character, I suppose you could call him, is a recovering addict.
Gotcha.
And it's like, it felt like I watched two different movies that had nothing to do with each other, that like one didn't have an ending and the other one didn't have a beginning. I'm just kind of like, I feel like the Monster Project was in there, but then there was also like 30 or 40 minutes of this drama movie going on that just did not land at all. And I appreciate them for like trying to add a little more substance, I guess, but it just felt a little, I don't know. It feels harsh to say it was half-assed, but like half-baked, I guess I should say. Like I feel like it needed to cook a little longer. But
I feel like this would be a good time for me to segue into Salem's Lot.
Let's do it. We got more werewolves, so let's take a break from werewolves.
But we do, I guess, because I do see it the quick. Well, Salem's lots quick, anyways. But so you're just talking about how it just like felt like unnecessary, in a sense, to where it's like too much shit was going on that they didn't really add to the film as a whole. And that's how I felt about watching the original Salem's Lot. Mind you, never read the book. But I could understand what they were trying to do before I even hit play on the movie. Because the movie was, 1971? And it was like 3 hours long.
Well, it was originally like a 2-part, like, TV movie.
And I could, with that being said, I could definitely tell where it would be like cut for TV, and that's a whole nother thing. But I mean, even with that being said, so like the movie starts and it's just kind of like introduced, like the writer comes back into town and they're like, he meets the real estate agent and the chick at the bookstore that he's smitten with, and meets her family, and developing all these like characters in a sense. And then you have like the movers who are moving like the coffin into the house, and they're supposed to put the 4 padlocks on it or whatever. And so dude gets spooked because like the coffin keeps moving as like they're like getting ready to deliver it. And he's like, it's cold in here. And like making it was kind of comments or whatever. So he's like, oh man, so you drop it off, right? And so same dude that was like, we need to get the fuck out of here. I said, oh, we forgot to put the padlocks on. And then the other dude was like, oh, fuck it, just throw it in there. I think he worked at like in the graveyard, like he was like a grave digger or whatever. And there's a name for him, can't think of what it is. But then he had a dog too, which like was like a thing because like in like one of like the first vampire scenes, you see something attack dude's dog or whatever. And so like he's like, oh, where's my dog? And so like that's like a whole thing. And then like the real estate agent is having like an affair with this chick. Who
a lot going on.
Is like dating like someone else or whatever. And it's like I understood that in the book. This probably made sense. Like I'm sure Stephen King did a better job of like making this.
Which
relevant.
I mean, that's what he does. Like a lot of his writing is like all of these little moments of like all the different characters and like he really immerses you in things. But yes, film and books.
Because I could tell that they wanted to try to make the closest
as
adaptation to the script. And there's a big gray area, I feel like, with that. Like,
but all in all, you felt like they could.
But I just like it's just so long, dude. Like I had to pause it and take a nap halfway through, like an hour and a half in, because like nothing was happening. There's no vampires. Like there's not like nothing is like going on to like grab my attention. Like this is just like just a long, slow movie. Because even like some of the stuff that happens doesn't even have any effect.
Well, now that I'm thinking about it, because we watched it as it is now, like as just like the 3 to 4 hour cut or whatever. Now that I'm thinking about it, think about all the 2-parters that have been coming out nowadays. What's the one thing everybody says about part 1? Oh, how fucking boring was that? And then everything happens in part 2. So I guess looking at it through that lens, I could see where when Salem's Lot came out, there was probably that aspect of like, here's part 1, and then here's part 2 where there's a lot more action.
Right? I can feel that, but
But what's also kind of interesting though, because you did watch the remake. I watched like maybe half of it. And I never went back to finish it just because it didn't grab me. But what was interesting to me is because I hear what you're saying about the original, because I did feel that way at times where I'm like, this does feel a little bloated. Maybe you could have taken some things out. But then the remake takes some things out. I'm like, well, I feel like you should have left these out. I feel like they were a little more necessary.
Because like, and especially like, because I also watched the sequel, which was just okay. It's not even worth even getting, to be honest with you. And so then I watched the remake, and mind you, I watched these all like in the same day. So like when I was watching the remake, it felt like a remake. Like it felt like they went through and shot it like scene for scene, updated, and then cut it. But like the way they cut it, like it felt weird. I'm like, yes, I didn't want it to be that long, but goddamn, I didn't.
It feels hollow. There's like a sweet spot. It doesn't need to be 4 hours, but it probably needs to be a little over 2.
And so there was that, but and I will say a saving grace for the remake was that like the second half was different. It wasn't just like a play by play of like if they didn't go to the house had nothing. They cut that whole storyline.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So
interesting.
I mean, but they still kept it true to where like they went to the fucking coroner's office or whatever, like when they were doing the autopsy for the bodies, and like the vampire pops like stands up like on the sheets or whatever, and like comes attacks them, and they put they make the cross with like toothpicks and like the string, like they kept it pretty true to that. So I mean, there are certain things, but then like it was different enough to where it was. I didn't feel like I just watched the exact same movie.
I feel you. I might have to
twice. I mean, I at least once. Fuck this, why not?
Right? No, I feel. But because I didn't. Like I said, I mean,
it wasn't. I don't know.
It wasn't terrible. You know,
I
feel like because I was also hot off that original. I also think I watched it like the day before or earlier that same day as well. And then I started watching the remake, and I was just like,
if you watched about like half of it, like you said, then the first half felt like they just cut things because it opened with them moving the coffin to the house.
Yeah.
Like there was no conversation leading up to it. There was no dude moving at the town. Like it just opened up. Like
which that alone kind of took.
So like that was like the first 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Before they even moved the coffin to the fucking house in their original. So it's just like
it zips along.
You know what I'm saying? So like there is like that, like you said, a sweet spot to where
I feel like a nice 2.5. Even push it to 2:45. Like there's probably like a solid Salem's Lot movie there.
Well, I feel like the remake was about like 2 hours and 15, 2:20, right?
Was it? I thought it was shorter. I thought it was at least like an hour and 49 or 50.
I thought it was around 2 hours.
I don't know.
I could be wrong.
I don't know. We'll have the intern look that up.
Yep. Update for next week.
Yeah. So I guess to jump off of that, Monster Squad also has a vampire in it. that's how I made that.
And also a werewolf.
And a werewolf. So we're back to the werewolf.
To blend the two together.
I will just say this. I'm so glad you enjoyed it. I really am. I'm glad you hit me out and you're like, I'm enjoying myself. I was like, good. Because I watched this for the first time last year. And so this is only my second time watching it. But I thought about it. I was like, I want to watch Monster Squad again. Like we're doing the werewolf thing. I'm watching all these monster movies. I was like, I got to watch Monster Squad. Because that was also one of those movies that the first time I watched it last year, I was like, how the fuck have I never seen this movie? Like, this is so up my alley that I loved it. Because, like, I think recently they came out with a documentary called Wolfman Has Nards. And it's, like, all about the Monster Squad. And that's how I kind of led my way back to seeing the Monster Squad for the first time. But I love it, dude. It's such a fun movie.
And I will say, even just, like, on the werewolf aspect, and this is something that, like, I hold like near and dear to my heart is like the duality of being a werewolf. Yeah. Like the human form of him was he hated it. Like he didn't want to be a werewolf, but at the end of the day, he's a goddamn werewolf. Right. You know what I'm saying? And so like I always I really love like that aspect of because sometimes like people just like lean into it.
You know
what I'm saying? Like,
I'm not prepared for this, but like when Shep and I did 25 Slays of Christmas, at the end of the week, we would always do our Slays of the Week, just our favorite kills from the movies and stuff. And I feel like had I come prepared, I would have come with my favorite werewolves of the season. Because I think Monster Squad is up there. I think I love the way they handled the werewolf story.
I think Monster Squad did the best rendition of what Wolfman was. Like they were keeping it true to like the the OG, like, because we both watched the Wolfman.
Yes.
Well, no, we talked about that last week.
Yeah, we did. We did.
But I guess to reiterate, we both watched the Wolfman.
We both watched the Wolfman. It's still true.
So it was like,
Can't take it back.
and obviously 40 years later, and they redid or had the Wolfman and that, and I felt like when we talk about like a werewolf, like that would be like the closest thing to like a human werewolf that I would want.
Yeah, I feel you.
You know what I'm saying?
And I think that's my sweet spot as well, is like that kind of werewolf.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love it.
Other than that, be more werewolf. But if we're going to do like a human-esque
Wolfman,
then that I think they did a good job.
Yeah, because there's that moment at the end where he finally dies, and he's just like,
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Also, the whole time I'm watching, I'm like, that's also fucking Uncle Rico from Napoleon Dynamite.
That's fine. Put that together.
But I love the Wolfman part of that story. The kid, just like the whole, like the banter. I feel like Shane Black. I told you Shane Black wrote it, and I feel like he is excellent with dialogue and banter.
And so I'm glad you bring that up, because I'm gonna just like a quick note or whatever. My favorite bit of like dialogue in the whole movie is, so it's like, they're in the monster squad, and so it's like the junior high kid like looking through like the telescope and seeing the dude's sister or whatever, and so then like
your sister doesn't live next door, does she?
She does, and so then fast forward, like they need a virgin, which, mind you, all these kids are virgins, right? So like, why do you need to find like a full blown fucking like teenager to be a virgin? But I forgave it. But still hilarious, like what they did with it, because it's like so it's like the kid has a crush on her, and like the dude's sister is trying to ask her if she's a virgin or whatever, and so like she, I guess, says yes at one point, and so then later she's like reading like or the German dude is like having her like
do the ritual.
Doing the ritual. So that I don't know if I was on my phone at one point or whatever, but like the little brother re-asks the sister,
like, "You're not a virgin, are you?"
And then she like just shakes her head no, and he's like, "What do you mean no?" And she's like, "Oh, well, I didn't like Dylan, but that didn't count." Like, didn't count. Like, I loved it. Like, I got like such a kick out. I said, "That's fucking hilarious."
I swear that Shane Black banter is like just the through line of all of his movies. I feel like, whether it's the Predator or it's the Nice Guys, or he's like, if you tell us what we want to know, he'll quit doing it. Quit doing what? Fucking.
Did you say "eat my pussy"? That was the Predators.
Oh, yeah.
No. And they all. Oh my god!
Doesn't he have Tourette's or something?
Yeah. Fucking Olivia Munn crushed that.
Oh, dude, that movie. Fuck what people say. That
movie. I thought it was silly when she caught up to the Predator on foot after they crashed miles on an airplane, but I don't know. Different time.
But I loved all of it. I loved the little sister always trying to be involved, and ultimately she does, because she's got the
and I love Frankenstein, because I think they also did that true to who Frankenstein was. Like Frankenstein was always and forever will. I never watched the OGs. I don't need to, but Frankenstein. I will, but I don't need to. But Frankenstein is like the gentle giant. He's a misunderstood monster. He's a monster who isn't a monster. He didn't ask for this. Like, Dracula might be his master, but he serves no man. He's just, you know what I'm saying? Like,
he's just a big dope.
He loved that little girl, and she loved him. Frankenstein, no girl. Wow, it almost brought me to goddamn tears. So I was like,
it's good. It's so good.
It's like, because like the doctor was the monster. Dr. Frankenstein was the monster, not the monster. You know what I'm saying? Like, good God.
There's so many great moments.
I thought I fucking Monster Squad. I'd say top 5 movies I watched this month.
For sure.
Absolutely.
Sure. I love it, dude.
I loved the opening where it's like they're talking.
They blew it.
They blew it. Like I laughed so goddamn hard. I was like that.
I just feel like it's the writing. Like the writing is just so sharp, man. Like whether it's like the characters, the dialogue, like it's
Van Helsing and they and they blew it.
I love it. Actually, speaking of favorites of the month, again, going back to the movie log, I always pick my favorite of the month. And I told you I was kind of stuck between 2. Well, I finally came to a conclusion.
Just now?
No. You're really thinking I'm just sharp today. Like we don't have a week to think about these things.
I always think you're sharp.
It's all things. But no, it was between Ginger Snaps 2 and I Saw the TV Glow. And ultimately, after a long think, I think I Saw the TV Glow was my favorite movie of the month. I know it didn't land for everybody, but there's just something about like the message of the overall movie. Like even just like the trans identity stuff aside, like just the whole idea of like the way that movie ends, and it's just like you blink and your whole life's over. And why? Because you didn't like you weren't yourself. You weren't true to yourself. You just
who were you on the inside?
Exactly.
Cut yourself open.
And that message just hit me so hard. And there were just a lot of moments in the movie that just like fucking just hit me and have stuck with me ever since, and so that one won the month. Yeah, no, Monster Squad was great. I think, is this the last of the werewolves? I think it is. Silver Bullet. We both watched Silver Bullet.
We did. I watched it because you said you were watching it. I said, fuck it.
Well, Silver Bullet, what an interesting movie, first and foremost. Now, so speaking of the Salem's Lot thing, Silver Bullet felt like one of the only times I've watched a Stephen King adaptation and was like, Stephen King wrote this himself, didn't he? And when I saw a screenplay by Stephen King, I was like, this makes so much sense. The way these people talk, the way everything was happening. I'm like, I've read so many Stephen King books that like I've got that cadence memorized. Now that is exactly what's happening in this whole movie. I was like, so I was not surprised to find out that Stephen King like wrote the script himself. But it was, I don't know, man. I had fun with it because like in the last 30 minutes of this movie, it goes fucking batshit. And that's what I think. And honestly, again, such a Stephen King thing. I mean, you can just be along for the ride, getting immersed, learning about all these characters and shit. And then all of a sudden, everything's just fucking kooky. Like, and with this movie, what really did it for me, one, like, what a movie ahead of its time. Like, yeah, the actor wasn't actually disabled, but the story was about a kid in a wheelchair. And like, I honest to God was thinking about it. And I'm like, I feel like this movie is doing the best I've ever seen at like, here's somebody in a wheelchair that's just a person. They're not defined by this disability. They're just a person. Like here he is at the baseball field, and they're like, hey, you want to come play? Like they're just like, he's like, I'm gonna go climb this fucking tree. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that. Like he's just, he's still just a kid, and I thought that was really cool.
He loved his sister. They pranked her with his friend pranked her with the snake.
Come on,
and she got her knickers dirty or whatever, her pantyhose.
And
he paid to get him.
He did. He was a good brother from the. So you love brother and sister stuff.
I hated how mean she was to him.
But I knew it had to come around because she was the narrator.
Yeah, of course. I was like, obviously I knew that they bond, but like, it was sad to see her be so, because his brother. There's
a bit of a correlation I can draw to a movie you haven't seen, so there's no point in bringing it up. I was gonna say Cuckoo, where it's like, but whatever.
But you did tell me about it, so I do get what you're getting at. I'll say this about Silver Bullet: I did enjoy Gary Busey's character. I enjoyed Uncle Red, or whatever the fuck his name was.
Yeah.
The wildest fucking scene for me was like, so we watched that Shudder thing about
the tropes, or was it the monsters?
I think it was the monsters, because I remember they talked about how the preacher was the werewolf and Silver Bullet or whatever, right? Yeah. And so, like, I think subconsciously I remembered that, because I remember Like,
I definitely remember.
I remember like watching. I was like, I feel like, well, it gave it away prior to the actual like reveal that he was the werewolf. Was like when he was having the nightmare about him in the church, and then everyone around him was turning into werewolves and stuff like that. I was like, was the werewolf?
Well,
doing that too. So I mean, that gave it away, and then that was like the first big clue, and then the literal evidence when like the kid shot the rocket into his eye, and then the sister's going around picking up cans or whatever, trying. But her real mission was to check out everyone's eye.
Right,
so
right. Which I thought was clever.
Which I could tell like that was part of like that Stephen King like fucking esque like writing where it's like,
let's go meet all the towns.
You didn't have to say that specifically. Like you could have showed it. You could like put two and two together. But then the reveal, like she goes to the reverend or the father or whatever the fuck you want to call him, and he has like the eye patch. But the wildest scene was fucking. So like they're writing him like the brother and sister are writing the father death notes. To go kill himself or whatever. And so then like at one point the kid's on his fucking little scooter doing his goddamn thing cruising because the rocket the fucking wheelchair was fucking on steroids.
Let me just say something. A Philly thinks it's silly moment here for me was when he snuck out of the house that one night. You're telling me not a motherfucker heard that silver bullet start up
when
and take
he
off?
Initially went to go shoot off the rocket.
He's deafening. Yeah. That thing is so fucking loud. You're supposed to tell me that your family had no idea you came and went.
You can barely keep it on fucking all four wheels when you fucking started, but all of a sudden no one heard that fucking kickback. Shut up. But
it's our biggest issue is silver bullet. So anyway, he's cruising.
So you see the preacher. I think it was after he left the baseball field when he the kids were playing. And he's like, I want to go home, and then he went home, or he was going home. So here comes father, fucking cruising like right behind him in his car, and they get into like a fucking like a high speed chase. Yeah, and I was like, oh my fuck, I was like, what the fuck? And then it got to the point where like dude hit the kid in the wheelchair
into the garden,
and he's like, "I'm gonna drown you, this big boy." He's like, "It's gonna be a sad accident." I was like, "Are you fucking silly?" I was like,
"That's my thing." So
that was wild. Really?
That's just when things were like just cranking up, because where things really just took a turn for me was moments before that. When they are writing the letter, when that fucking kid is putting that, I'm like, oh, what does this say? A little note to the preacher to let him know we're on it. Kill yourself. I was like, what? My jaw dropped, dude. I was in genuine shock. I was like, this movie took such a hard turn. It was like one movie 1 second, and then all of a sudden it's like, hey, father, go kill yourself. I was like, what the fuck? This kid's and then to find out that he's been doing it for like a week or some shit. He's just been sending this dude messages, and it's like, hey, I fucking know your secret. Kill yourself.
I know there's no internet, but this is the fastest.
This is like
you're better off dropping off the note fucking by
this is cyberbullying before cyberbullying.
Pretty much.
But
kill yourself.
So so that I'm already like shocked by the turn of events, because what I also thought was funny about Silver Bullet, which is again often the case about Stephen King stuff, is like otherwise I felt like this was almost like a family film, and then like murder would happen and I'm like, that was gruesome. Like the moments of like actual violence, I was like, oh shit, that's right, I'm not watching some kids movie. But then like he sends the messages, he's like, kill yourself. I was like, whoa. And then after that the preacher starts trying to fucking run the disabled kid off the road. I'm like, what is this fucking movie I'm watching? And it just kept getting crazier. I was just like, what the fuck is this movie?
I will say Silver Bullet did the best job of having a werewolf movie where there wasn't a fucking werewolf. They showed like a paw.
I did.
Some feet. It wasn't until like the last,
I believe, Silver Bullet.
15 minutes, like in the house towards the end.
Oh yeah, because they always show the bits
it's
and pieces.
like full werewolf. It's like, that's.
I saw somebody say that once you finally see the werewolf, it looks like Smokey the Bear. Which I could kind of see. I was like, I can see where he looks a little grisly, you know?
That's funny.
But no, I mean, I had fun. Was it the best movie ever?
No, but better than The Curse.
I'll give it that. No, it was, I had fun with it.
I enjoyed it. It was decent.
That
I think that is the werewolf saga.
I guess we'll pop off real quick with our Halloween, like the movies we watched on Halloween before getting into our big grand finale. I watched Shaun of the Dead on Halloween, 20th anniversary.
Oh, I wish I would have watched it. I would know.
Yeah, 20th anniversary this year.
You stuck it on me.
And, I wanted to go see it in theaters like a couple months back. They re-released it for the 20th anniversry, and I guess it just didn't hit any of the theaters around here, unfortunately. But, because that would be a great one to see in theaters. But, yeah, dude, still just as good as ever. And it's just weird because, like, a lot of my memories of that movie are around Halloween time because Comedy Central would just play that motherfucker into the ground. Like it's
the one we got in the
right. This October, Shaun of the Dead, all the fucking time. 31 days. Everyone else is over on ABC Family watching 31 Days of Halloween, but Comedy Central has 31 Days of Shaun of the Dead just on repeat. No, it's still good. I mean, I think all of Edgar Wright's movies, I feel like every time I watch them, I notice a detail I never noticed before. Like, it never fails. No matter how many years I've been watching his movies, there's always something that I'm like, oh, I never noticed that before.
I'm trying to think of his other movies.
Well, he did all that trilogy, Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz.
Okay, gotcha.
My favorite, Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
Okay.
Baby Driver. You just watched one of his, Last Night in Soho, which is probably the least Edgar Wright movie out of all of them.
Yeah, I sure did.
But
okay, I knew the name sounded familiar. I just
he's my favorite director of all time.
I feel like I was getting him confused with Guy Ritchie for a second.
That's possible. That's possible. It happens. Yeah, I don't have much to add to the Shaun of the Dead conversation. You know, I love a buddy comedy. And that movie just fires on all cylinders. As a horror movie, I love horror comedies, you know, and
yes,
it's just
come by sometimes.
And you know something? This time around, I feel like I've felt this before when I watch this movie. Shaun of the Dead is, for as funny as it is a sad movie.
Yeah, that's what we watched that thing on Shudder where it talked about like the first half of the movie is like, you know, funny, haha.
Yeah.
It gets serious. It's funny. It's almost kind of like how, you know, maybe a poor example, but like how Click was.
No, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it was all fun and games until it fucking wasn't. You know what I'm saying? Where it's like, it gets so far, it's like, yeah, I hope you enjoyed your fucking laughs.
Yeah.
Because that's about all we're going to fucking have.
This ain't Billy Madison. Yeah, no, I feel you. But no, yeah, still as good as ever. And then you watched Sinister. You said you closed out the month with Sinister?
I did. I watched. Sinister was the last movie I watched. So, like, I think we talked about it a little bit earlier, off camera and stuff, but it's like, you know, you said, like, you can watch a movie after so long and still feel like the first time or whatever, but it's like, when I watch, like, there will never be, like, a Sinister experience like the first time I watched it. You know what I'm saying? Like, there were still little things I picked up, like, in the beginning, like when he first goes into the attic, he kills a scorpion.
Yeah.
And then like later there's like a snake in the box. And so then like when he's talking to like the professor who like, you know, specializes in like occults and stuff like that. And like they're talking about the ghoul and how like it was like a rare whole fucking thing or whatever.
Yeah.
And so like when he's like showing pictures, there is like, it said like he would take form in like a scorpion and a snake, and like the symbol was like a 3-headed snake that came down or whatever. So I never realized it until I watched it that time. I was like, oh, there's that symbolism where it's like the scorpion and the snake, and then it's building up to what Bagul really is. And Great fucking movie,
dude.
though. Like, I mean,
one of all times.
I think if Philly were to say a top 4 underrated actor, fucking
Ethan Hawke.
Ethan Hawke. I think.
Love Ethan.
I mean, he does some great movies, and like everyone's gonna know him from Training Day and stuff like that. Like, people know who he is, but I feel like if you were to go to someone up on the stream like, oh, what's your favorite Ethan Hawke movie, or like whatever, they know him from Training Day, but they don't know the name Ethan Hawke. You know what I'm saying? They know who he is, but they don't know him. And
no, I feel it.
I think I really contemplated not watching Sinister to end my series, because I watched one of my favorite movies, Apostle.
Oh, that's right.
And I originally thought about flipping it. I was going to watch Sinister first and then end on Apostle, just because I didn't want to end on such a creepy note right before I went to bed. But I said, fuck it. So I did anyways. But it was just like, I don't know. It's like one of those things where it's like, he did such a good job. Yeah. I loved him. I loved Ethan Hawke in The Purge. Yeah. And I love that he like put up all his like $1 million of his own money just to make sure that the movie got made, because he like believed he's in the script. You know what I'm saying? Like I really want to watch The Black Phone. I started it. I got about like maybe 30 minutes.
I was going to bring up The Black Phone because the guy who directed The Black Phone, Scott Derrickson, also directed Sinister, and he's made some great movies. Deliver Us from Evil was also him, which I thought about watching that for Halloween. I thought about watching that past Halloween. I was like, I kind of just want to watch Deliver Us from Evil.
We're going to do two together. So.
And that movie scared the living shit out of me when we saw it.
We both smoked a cigarette after.
I did. I didn't even smoke cigarettes. I was like, give me a fucking cigarette, dude. I'm stressed. But Sinister, dude, like that's one of those movies that like no matter how many times I've seen it, it's still just as fucking scary. Like it still just freaks me out, bro.
And it's just creepy.
Whether it's the way it all ends or like especially the tapes. The tapes never get any more pleasant to watch. Yeah, especially the lawnmower scene. Like Jesus H.
And the lawnmower scene was one, and I saw what they did where it's like they had like the scream added into it or whatever. It was like a distorted like yell. So like obviously it's gonna make you want to jump. And then Ethan Hawke fucking sold the shit out of it. Like when he jumped just as hard as what everyone else should have been jumping. Like he didn't even know that was gonna happen. Like he's like, what the fuck are you showing?
Why are you showing me this?
You know what's funny is I was thinking as I was watching, I was like, you know what? If someone gave me a Super 8 film and told me to fucking play it, I wouldn't even know where to begin to how to like line a fucking actual projector film like that. Like that. I put it in DVD.
He's a smart guy.
Well, he was a writer, and he's
honestly not only
he doesn't age. He is this. I remember. Just a very quick note, like when he did Boyhood, and there's like that 20-year gap,
right?
And like they made him grow facial hair because like he did not like he really did not like age like that. Like he was like he looked like he was like in his goddamn 20s. And it was funny. And like had another side note, but like fucking he did that before Dawn. And stuff like that, right? Because that was
also like a few years apart.
Yeah, that was like a timepiece because the director said you're better off watching it.
Yeah,
you know, within the time frame,
right. Like every 3 to 4 years or whatever it is. Yeah, dude.
Dedication. I'm not gonna do it.
Ethan Hawke is an excellent actor. We should go down an Ethan Hawke rabbit.
I'm going to. I almost saved it just because I did want to watch The Black Phone. I was like, I could go down an Ethan Hawke road
because that just sounds like a fun journey. I feel like Ethan Hawke does so many different things.
I'd rewatch fucking Moon Knight.
Well, he was in that one I told you about, I think last week, In a Valley of Violence, the Western.
Yeah, because I told you I'm going down a Western kick.
And you know what? He was like one of the best parts of me. And when I heard Ethan Hawke and Oscar Isaac were going to be in that show, it's criminal how that show did not live up to the talent tied to it. Like, don't get me, I enjoyed it, but like, you got Ethan Hawke, Oscar Isaac, and then you got those directors on like Benson and Moorhead doing half the episodes. I just don't understand. The writing department.
So like I felt this way when you're talking about Moon Knight.
Moon Knight, yeah.
So like I figured who else is Oscar Isaac and fucking
Ethan
Hawke in together. But I remember you felt that way since it came out, and I have always been an advocate for Moon Knight.
Oh, yeah.
I enjoyed it when I watched it. Even I got teary-eyed when you said you didn't like it because I got so into it, and I was like, you're like, oh man, it wasn't really sure fucking chord with you.
Damn.
I was like, it did though. I mean, like the whole aspect, like with the mom.
Oh well, that episode was incredible.
But it's just like I guess
it didn't stick the landing. You know what I mean?
And
like,
maybe the landing that you anticipated.
I guess
he crushed it. They did a good job in my eyes, but
I'm not saying
there is no platform for them to land.
I'm not saying I don't hate on Moon Knight like other people do. Like I did enjoy Moon Knight. That does remind me, you need to get caught up on Agatha All Along. It's done. It's done. So now you're gonna have to come over. We're gonna have to rewatch it. You want to? I will just say this. Speaking of sticking the landing for Marvel shows, a lot of people feel like this one did, and I guess I'm an odd man out on that. So we'll have to talk about that.
Yeah, but
whenever we get to that.
For the past few weeks, you're like, I really just hope they stick the landing. Like this could be the. But best,
so are all these other people.
This could be like the best Marvel show in a long time if they stick the landing, and so apparently.
And maybe they did, and it's like you just said, maybe it wasn't the landing I was wanting, but maybe it's worth a re-examination. Yeah. We'll get into that whenever we do that. But last thing on Sinister before moving on, one of the greatest of all time. I would put it in like my favorite, like a top 10 horror movies, and like I definitely put it maybe like top 20 at least, like just films of all time. It just holds up. It's a great movie.
Yeah, definitely top 10 horror films. I'd say like a 6 man, maybe not necessarily 5, but it's closer to.
It's excellent. I will say
5 than it is 10.
Without hesitation, usually when people are like, "What's the scariest movie you've ever seen?" I'm like, Sinister. I won't even blink. I'm just like, it's Sinister. Yeah, Sinister scared the shit out of me, and it still continues to do so every time I fucking watch it. Like it's still spooky.
I remember the second time I watched it because I watched it with you and Brittany. And so, like, that motherfucker, dude, like, he got me. And then, like, I'm, like, on the, edge of my seat the whole time, like,
here it comes.
Like, oh, my God. And so, like, the movie's over. I'm like, I'm cool. I think it's over, right? I'm just like, oh, God, credits, thank God. So, like, so we're rolling. And so then they do, like, that final pop-out scare where, like, Bagul, like, does, like, the little side angle. And I remember I wasn't anticipating it. I threw my phone across the fucking room. Like, they really goddamn got me. I was like, you son of a bitch. Like, you took me there. You took advantage of me. I was not anticipating that.
But you also said Apostle. I need to rewatch Apostle. I only watched it the one time when it first came out. I didn't realize you had such a deep love for it.
Oh, I really do.
But that only makes me want to watch it.
I would say top 3, like in the horror genre.
Yeah. Interesting.
Movies, for sure. I'd probably say Midsommar might be number 1.
Oh, really?
Top 3.
I'm learning a lot right now.
Apostle. And then, I don't know about the third one. The third one's tricky. I think
Sinister's down in the 6 range, so
I could think of 3 more apparently. Maybe it is top 5. I want to say Hereditary was definitely like the first time I watched that. I was like, oh my God, what the fuck did I watch? Did not feel that way about Annihilation though. I know that one that you really enjoyed.
Rock my socks.
But I think that one was like, I almost felt like you overhyped it for me. Like,
100%.
you're like, you need to watch it. So then when I finally did watch, I was like, me too? Like,
I just feel like the theater experience
but
is one of those that like you want to talk about something I wish I could like relive, was like that experience of seeing Annihilation in a theater for the first time. That I turned around, I saw it that second time, like, and was still just as dumbfounded as I was the first time. Maybe not as much as the first time, because that first time I saw it, that movie ended and not a fucking person in the room moved. Like, we were all just sitting in our seats, just like contemplating. We were like, what did we see? What is life? What is happening?
That's a high bar to set going into it.
Yes, 100%. So I'll take the blame for that. But no, Apostle, I definitely need to rewatch that one, because I love Dan Stevens. I'd honestly put Dan Stevens, the star of Apostle. Yeah, I might put him in like my top 5 actors. I'm not gonna lie.
He did I don't think you could have got anyone else to do a better job than what he did in that role. Like I was telling you before, like, you know, being an older brother, like, there's nothing I would never not do for my sister. You know what I'm saying? Like, I would go to hell and back for her. And so, like, you know, and he, you know, as soon as he heard, as soon as he was like, oh, your sister got kidnapped for ransom. Where the fuck is she at? You know? You know what I'm saying? And so it's like, I really enjoyed that. I think this time I was able to watch it, I tried to break it down more into like symbolisms and shit like that. Where it's like, I love religious movies where it's like, does religion always benefit man? And so I think like what it was for me was like, it kind of showed like the comparison that, you know, man is greedy. Like it showed how they came to this foreign land to where like there was this God, and so because and she gave life to the land, like she provided the crops and everything else, and all she needed was like a sacrifice, or it's like she just needed blood to survive. Well, the Mayans were fucking doing that. Like if that's like the rule, then just follow the rule. Like, but it was like man not being complacent to where like they captured her and like they were holding her captive and like starving her, and then so like the land was dying and like it was producing stuff to be able to survive, and so like they were dying and stuff like that. And then, you know, because it was like the 3 main dudes or whatever. And so one of them, like, I can't remember the actor's name that played like the younger boy. Oh, okay. You know what I'm saying? Like younger boy. He was like 16, 17. But
it's been so long.
But he is, like, you would know. Yeah. Like, if you fucking saw who he was. I'm just not great at that kind of stuff. But, because I've seen him in other things, but so like he is like, him and this girl are like having relations or whatever, and so like they're having like sex on the boat or whatever, and so then like you kind of know what's gonna fucking happen, you know what I'm saying? So like, because it's like back in like the 1900s, I think is when like the time period set. Something like that. I believe it's 1900s, like the early 1900s, and so like you know, so. But like that is the daughter of one of like the main dudes in charge or whatever. And so like there's like a scene like between him and her where like they're getting into it because like he knows what's going on, but dude's fucking just like batshit. Like I remember the first time I watched it, like when he like, because well, spoilers, but he fucking like he kills her. Like he like cuts the baby out and she dies. And then blames, and so then the boyfriend's coming back to bring her like a sign that says hope that he like hand carved. Heartbreaking in of itself. Oh, maybe a little watery, but so he gets there and then sees his fucking fiance and his unborn baby just dead. Yeah, essentially. And so then he attacks the father, because obviously he knows what the fuck happened. And so then the father runs out, convinces the town people that the boyfriend was the one that killed his daughter and attacked him. And so then they do like this purifying ritual, which is like up there for one of like the saddest things I've ever seen in a movie. So like they like strap him down to like these wooden boards and like rope, right? And so, oh my God, it's so like the imagery. So like they have like a tool to like where they crank it to where like the boards like push up against his head.
Yeah.
And so it's like showing it like through the lens, and so you hear his fucking skull crack, and then like you see like his eyes go red because like his eyes are full of blood or whatever, because like he's looking away and then his head is like facing up, so like you know what I'm saying. But then it was like there's like it's not just for whatever the fuck they did, because no one really does that, but there's like a cooking tool to where it's kind of like the same thing, or like a mechanical tool to where it's like the screw, and then you have like that rotary blade with like the ends or whatever, and so like to purify them, they strap them down, and then they crank this tool, and it like fucking buries like a hole in his fucking head. And so you see him twitching and shit like that. And so then at the end of the ceremony, and the dude didn't even really have the right to even make that call. Like he wasn't even in charge. Like it was supposed to be the main dude that was leading the fucking island to make that decision. And he just said, nah, fuck it. It's what's happening. And so like they take a pedal, like a rose petal, and so they put it like in his head, or whatever, like after the fact, and it's like, oh, he's purified now. And then like the other third dude, that was his kid, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So like he was talking about leaving with him and his son, and like so like the backstory was like he was talking to his fiance about leaving the island like that day. She just had to pack and leave, and so like it all just kind of came to a head in that sense, where it's like so close, you know what I'm saying? And he's like, my boy, what'd you do to my boy? It's like I can't even imagine walking into that, you know what I'm saying? And so there's like that whole thing, but even it's like I also thought about like the god of the island as like Mother Nature. It's like if you take care of Mother Nature will take care of you, but people just want to use and strip it of all its resources and not give back and replenish the way that it needs to, and then you're not able to reciprocate those fucking benefits. And it's just a great movie. Like I said, one of my favorites of all time.
I am curious if that guy has done anything recently, because like I said, that's the same director of the Raid movies.
And I enjoyed both of them. I thought the first one was better than the second one, to be honest.
Really?
Yes, sir.
Damn, I think the second one's a fucking masterpiece. The second one is the shit. But I digress. We'll get into because now Philip was determined to make this our first 2-hour episode, and we're gonna succeed apparently. So, so all of that. Let's put all of this horror behind us. Before I let you off the leash to just go crazy on Friday the 13th, I will say I like it. We'll build up just a few quick notes with Halloween. I feel like, obviously with Halloween, you watch anything you want, but the ideal movie is like Halloween. Right. But then November comes and you need to transition your way out of spooky season. Well, a debate that's been settled before, now's the time to watch Nightmare Before Christmas. November 1st is the best day to watch it because that's when the fucking movie starts. It's literally Halloween is over. They're celebrating the ending of Halloween. And then shortly thereafter, it's Christmas. So you can literally November 1st to Christmas have your Nightmare Before Christmas. But
never seen it.
November 2nd, old Dia de los Muertos. Yes. Sorry. Day of the Dead. I always love to watch Coco. Just about every year. I've missed it some years, but like I love it. Honestly, it might be my favorite Pixar movie. It really might be. That motherfucker, it makes me cry so much that when I went to watch it with Belle last night, who's never seen it before, I need to go home and finish it. Because she didn't even get to the twists and everything yet. But like, just the song in it, Remember Me, every time I hear that song, I immediately just start tearing up. I'm just like immediately sad. And it's like a happy song for the most part throughout the. Have you seen Coco?
I've seen pretty much all of it in bits. I've never actually watched it from like start to finish, but I would say I've seen the whole movie.
Well, then I'll talk about it anyway. So, Remember Me is the big song in it. It won the Oscar that year and all that shit.
Was that before the grandma died or after?
Well, that's near the end. Because I feel like the grandma dies in a sense of like, you don't even really see it happen. Like, it's not like she is dying and then she's dead. What happens is when you find out like who the grandfather is and all that stuff.
The musician.
Then he comes back and is like, was this your father? And she remembers. And then she starts singing the song too. Oh my God, Philip. Every time I hear anybody sing Remember Me, all I think about is that last scene where Coco herself starts singing it. And I'm immediately in tears. Because that movie came out, I don't know, shortly around the time I just started kind of losing family members, I feel like. So it just, it was brutal, dude. And that's what I told, but at the same time, very like cathartic. I feel like I love watching Coco for that reason of like, I've always loved, Mexican culture and just Spanish culture in general. And that's a big draw to it for me. But I love their view on death. I love the idea of the Day of the Dead.
It's a celebration of life.
Exactly.
It's not even a mourning of death.
I think it's a beautiful movie, and I'm glad that this movie exists. Obviously, I was an adult by the time Coco came out, but I'm glad this movie exists, for my kids to watch growing up.
Right.
It's excellent.
I feel you.
Great way to kick off November. But
yes.
That being said, let's bitch about Friday the 13th.
I gladly will. So the first one we watched essentially together the first time in Tennessee.
Which you say.
I believe it to be true.
And you know something? I believe it to be true as well.
For someone to have a movie map and you to not know is
well, and now here's the thing. Here's why I don't know.
I remember it very vividly.
Once you brought it up, I thought about it and I remembered. I was like, oh, okay, I remember. Because everybody was like, hey, yeah, it's whatever. Spooky time, let's watch a spooky movie. And we landed on Friday the 13th because it was a classic. I do remember it once you brought it up to me. Probably took it out of my brain because fuck Friday the 13th. I'm very vocal about I don't enjoy that first movie. To the point where, like you said, apparently that was my second time watching it. I watched it, I think, either earlier this year or sometime last year. And I said, the next time I watch this movie will be with like my son. When he's old enough to watch it, I'll be like, this is a classic. It's Friday the 13th. And now I'm never watching this movie again.
Yeah.
Like this last Friday the 13th, I just skipped it altogether. I went straight to the second one. I just decided to watch the second one, which was a little more okay. But I just don't care. That first one, I think, is a fucking snooze fest. I think it's so boring. But the fact that you were like, well, we watched together, and I genuinely was like, what? I erased it from my brain. That's how much I didn't want to fucking watch that movie a second time. I don't know, man. So apparently I've seen it 3 times now, and it's never gotten any better.
Well, it never will.
And it never will. No.
My biggest problem with the first Friday the 13th is like, not that like the mom was the killer, but like there was like 2 things that really bugged me about the film. I mean, obviously besides like the cheap deaths, because I just felt like they were just corny. Like it was just always half-assed. But it's the first film, right? So I forgive it for that.
And the first of like the slashers.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying. I forgive it for that aspect. It came out in the fucking 81,
I think
80,
so.
Something like that. And then and then it showed the mom was the actual killer who was killing the kids or whatever.
Yeah.
Counselors, I won't call them kids. So like, I can't remember the first chick's like name, the one that like cut her head off or whatever.
Yeah.
I started with an A, I'm pretty sure.
I want to say it's Annie.
I want to say it was Alice.
It was either, well, I'll tell you this. It was either Annie or Alice, and I know this because all of the characters in Summer Camp of Horrors are named after the Friday the 13th people.
Nice.
So,
I guess.
I think it was Alice.
Anyways, I think it was Alice too. So the mom is attacking her or whatever.
Yeah.
And so she, knocks her down. And so I don't know, maybe it's just like my mindset or my thought process. But it's like if someone is literally trying to kill me, I'm going to kill them. You know what I'm saying? Because she knocked her down, and so forget the first time. You're scared. Oh, I'm getting away. Happened a second time. She went ducked off somewhere. Mom found her, knocked her down again, ran off, and then it happened a third time before she eventually killed her. You know what I'm saying? Like chopped her head off with the machete or whatever. And so it's like the first time I forgive. Second time, after the third time, you tell me this bitch has came back at you 3 fucking times and you didn't just kill her when she was just laying on the fucking ground, just stick a goddamn fucking fork through her. She's done. Cook her. She's done. She's toast. And so I was like, okay. I think one of the there is a kill that I just could not stand where it's it was this chick was getting stabbed or whatever, so it's showing it her and you are the killer or whatever.
Right.
And it's so you have the knife, and I swear to God it was a minute long of just slow-mo knife creeping up to her. I'm like, are you goddamn kidding me? This is wild. Second one, so I watched the second one. Didn't think it was really. Oh, so to go back to the first one, how it ends is Jason's body pops up out of the lake,
Right,
and grabs her, and then she wakes up and no one knows what the fuck happened.
Yeah.
And so whatever. And so we move on to the second one, where it's essentially the girl who survived in the first one gets killed in the opening scene pretty much. Yeah. It's well, then why even bring her back? And then so then it's new camp counselors, and so they're all having sex, titties out every goddamn fucking movie. I was just because we talked about it I think a couple weeks ago, just the unnecessary nudity.
Well, Friday the 13th as a franchise is probably, I wouldn't say single-handedly, but definitely very responsible for that. I feel they were a big push. I feel
it's just because sometimes it's just
why?
It just I don't know. It just didn't even feel right. I'm just not that I felt gross, but I just felt unnecessary.
Right.
Okay, yes, they're horny teens having sex. You don't need to go out of your way to show boobs.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I've seen titties. It's not.
I've seen titties. I'm gonna see titties. I didn't need to see titties. This is unnecessary.
Yeah, I can see my own titties.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But not as big. But anyways, fucking. So that happened, and then but it was the same thing where I've made the comment to you over text where it's if you've seen one Friday the 13th movie, you saw 9, because it's always the same goddamn thing.
Yeah,
you're guaranteed a window break, which happens.
My favorite.
Happens every movie, and then you have the close up shot of your face, and then you get stabbed and you don't see it. There's no need for effects, and it's I understood it. For maybe the first 2, I forget that, but after the third one, and I will say the third one is arguably one of my favorites.
Yeah.
It's the third. So I'd say the remake is my favorite, but that's
fair.
But that's my own opinion. But fucking. So the third one comes around. I enjoyed they leaned more into the stoner aspect. I loved the stoner characters, and I just thought it was it's fine, but the yada killing. And so then I think the fourth one, right, was that the one where Yeah, that was the one where no.
Honestly, I'm just going to say this about the remainder of these films. The first time, so I actually just came to a realization just now, this time,
Nice. Sharp.
that I'm just now realizing I've actually seen that first one 4 fucking times.
Good God.
So I erased not 1, but 2 viewings of this movie from my brain, both of them in Tennessee. So maybe it was just because of like the trauma going on in my life. I don't know, but who fucking knows? But because it was the first time I ever watched the rest of the franchise, because I watched it all with my roommate at the time. So obviously we watched that first one. And so that's yet another fucking time I watched that stupid ass. But I'm done with it for sure this time. I'm just going to keep forgetting I've seen it so many times. I'll be like, this is the last time.
That's fine.
So we watched all of them basically in the course of like 2 days. And
good God.
Like literally, like it ended, start the next one. It ended, start the next one, which is pretty easy to do because they're all pretty short, as they should be.
But the longest one was 1 hour and 40 minutes, and that was
for me. Like I said, I don't remember a lot of like the details, I guess, but I do remember like my experience watching it. I enjoyed myself the farther in we got. Like the more ridiculous shit got, the more I started enjoying myself.
See, and I remember you told me that, and so like when I watched them, never felt that.
Yeah,
I never felt them lean into the ridiculousness until like the ninth one.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, I feel like I remember really enjoying like Manhattan and like Go to Hell.
See, I did not enjoy Manhattan.
But I don't know. I'd have to rewatch them. That was fucking like...
But Manhattan upset me for a couple of reasons, but I feel like I should work my way up to that.
That was nearly... Jesus Christ. Are we going to go through every single one of these movies?
Oh, very briefly. Okay. Not in great detail. I will say in the third one, and the window scene that upset me. So...
People are going to listen to this and be like, you thought Salem's Lot was too long.
God damn it. If you listen to Philly talk for 10 minutes, shit. But, no, so it was like in the third one, like he throws the chick out the window.
Yeah.
And it was like a double whammy because I also brought up about the car scene. And so like he throws her out the window and she lands on the car. And so like the windows like completely bust out of the fucking car. But then she died. I was like, would you know? Like she landed on something. Like she fell from a story. Like I don't know if that's death worthy necessarily. But they killed her. Whatever. I didn't really give a shit. So I think the fourth one I don't remember. Fourth one was just another Friday the 13th movie. Fucking the fifth one, I will say, is my least favorite. Of all of them. A New Beginning is it's just so dumb. So and like maybe it's because I was in a bad mood when I watched it, but like I remember at one point I was screaming at my laptop for the movie to just end. I was like, stop! I was like, just kill her, like shut her up. Like why is she screaming? So like. So it's all going on. And so there's like, it's Tommy Jarvis, and he was in the fourth one, killed Jason, and so now he's an adult in like a halfway house, coping with the trauma that he dealt with killing Jason for like 15 years apparently. And so there's a couple things. So like he pieced up anybody that like came at him sideways. Like he was like busting out fucking like UFC moves. Like he was like jumping up and kicking people. He's like he was hurting motherfuckers, right? And so like he's like, oh, I'll give you a 10-piece for free, bitch. Like, that's kind of how it felt. And so there is a scene. I don't want to use the word, but I'm going to. So there was like I'm mentally challenged.
Hey, thanks for that.
A son and like her mom raising her, are raising him. Oh. Yes, but they were both kind of loony and very loud. But they were like complaining about the people who were in the halfway house because they were crazy and they're acting like. But it was like the play that they were crazy, but they were also talking about other people being crazy. So. Like, okay, whatever. She's like making stew and shit like that. So at one point, the son confronts Tommy. Quick 10-piece. Beats the shit out of him. Right? Like,
don't you fucking call him.
He says something. He's like, I don't care if your mouth is sagging or not. I'm smacking the shit out of you. And that's pretty much, like, he jumped up and kicked him in the fucking head at one point. Like, he hurt him. He, like, knocked out one of his 10 teeth. And so dude jumps back on the motorcycle and fucking goes back home. And this is the point where I screamed at the TV for the first time. And I almost slammed my laptop shut. I think it was around the time I told you I wanted to throw my laptop out the window.
Right.
And so it's him running around on a dirt bike. So loud as fuck, mind you. You have this grown-ass 220-pound man screaming at the top of his lungs, like, I'm gonna kill him. I'm gonna kill him. Like, I had a headache. I was like, oh my, I thanked Jason when he cut his head off that one. I was like, just please, for the love of God. It's because there was Reckless Reggie was also a side character in this whole fucking situation. And so it was like the main chick, Tommy, and then Reggie. And so, at one point they get to like a barn because Jason loves barns for some reason. Like they keep going back to that. And
he's got some weird quirks.
He got hung there once, and so apparently it really,
God damn, I love barns.
It really resonated
just
with
like he loves smashing windows.
I would love to throw a fucking hay bale at somebody is Jason's thought process. So anyways, like, you see Tommy piecing up anybody at this point. So he hurts 2 people. And so it gets to the point, but he always thinks he's imagining Jason. I can forgive the fact that, like, now he's seeing Jason and now he's like frozen in fear and he just doesn't know how to react because it's like Jason just swings the machete and like cuts him in the goddamn chest. Like, dude didn't try to move, wasn't busting out any of those karate moves anymore. Like, he just took it, like, oh, and then, like climb the ladder, Tommy. And then so he's climbing the ladder and then fucking. He pulls his head out of his ass and finally does something, and he takes care of Jason again. But what I really hated, because they did the same ending in the first, second, and third, where it's like the person jumps out of the lake, and I texted you and said, how often are they going to do this? 4 times was the answer. And the whole time I'm like, because they were leaning into like Tommy Jarvis becoming the new Jason. Like, there's no fucking way.
Yeah.
And so then, like, he goes, they all go to the hospital, whatever. And so then it shows Tommy putting on the Jason mask and then insinuates that he kills one of the main chicks. And I just hated it. I hated it. Oh, before that, like when Jason's chasing the chick around, ooh, might be dead. Jason's chasing the chick or whatever, like she is screaming for like 15 to 20 minutes, just like out loud, just like the whole time. And it got to the point where I was like, Jason, just kill her. Like, please, put her out of her goddamn misery, because I do not want to listen to her scream anymore. The 6th one was what Jason lives or whatever. So then like Tommy goes to like the gravesite, digs him up, and then like the shovel catches, like gets struck by lightning, comes alive or whatever.
Yeah.
And then the police officer, they still think it's Tommy, whatever. That's when they put the chains on him, drown in the lake. And so then like I think the 7th one was the telepathy, where the chick had like the telekinesis or whatever. Yeah. And so what, like, again, it's just another movie, but like the doctor tried to make the chick feel like, was trying to put her in high stress situations to make her telekinesis act up, because apparently she drowned her dad when she was like 7. She like made the fucking bridge collapse or whatever. And so then it's like, so at one point, like it's her and Jason or whatever, right? And so there's like a telephone pole, and she disconnects the wires and puts them in the water, and all of a sudden there's no more electricity. And I was like, that's not how that works. Like, just because the electricity hit the water doesn't mean the electricity no longer is a thing anymore. Like, you can't just go walking into it. And then I just felt like I felt like my saving grace with like Jason Goes to Hell is that they tried something different.
Yeah.
At least, I mean, as cheesy and weird as it was, like with Jason's heart transferring from body to body, that was weird. But did I get it? Sure. Like, at least they did something that they didn't do with everything
all the
else.
other times.
Although I will say Jason X felt just like that one.
Goofy.
That one was just unnecessary. I was just like, good fucking God. But I did enjoy the remake with Sam from Supernatural, Jared.
Oh, yeah.
Whatever, P
Padalecki
something.
or whatever. Yeah.
I enjoyed that. But again, another brother-sister combo.
Probably the best out of them, for sure. I agree with
I
that.
felt like they at least utilized Jason more.
Yeah.
Like, the kills were a little bit more creative. Like, he burned the one chick in the sleeping bag, and he kept stabbing one dude through the floor and stuff like that. So I feel like they did more than just close-up stab scene. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Jason is one of those characters that I appreciate more than the series he came from. You know, like, I feel like
I feel that.
Like, I can appreciate him as a character, but I don't necessarily enjoy the Friday the 13th movies. Pretty low on my list.
I feel like one thing I will say about it is, like, at least in, like, if you like were growing up in the 80s, like because they came out like every year from like 81 to 89, there's like a Jason movie. You know what I'm saying? So I can understand that maybe being in that time period where like it was popping, I can understand why people might enjoy Friday the 13th more, but as like a film, overall they're shit.
Yeah.
Just to be honest.
Yeah. Well, I guess that'll do it for the spooky season.
Yes, it will.
That'll
no
wrap it
more
up.
in October.
No, we're gonna take a departure, do some other genres, which I'm pretty excited about myself. I already know some things we're going to be talking about coming down the line. So
can't wait.
I'm looking forward to it. Hey, thanks for joining us for our longest episode yet. At this rate, every episode is going to be longer than the last, and eventually the Salem's lot writers are going to be like, these guys can fuck themselves.
That's funny.
Till next time. Peace.
Yep, later.